because you all made a mistake?
Not really, no.
So you want to get mad and hit the computer because you made a mistake? Because your company made a mistake? You want to take it out on me?
I'm not taking it out on you.
So why did you get mad and hit the computer? Why did you get mad and hit the computer?
Because I have mentioned.
I'm sure you're on camera, right?
Yeah, I am.
I'm sure you're on camera. So this is the type of people they have working here.
I gotta go, man. I gotta go. You ruined my life. You ruined my whole life, man.
Wow. You gotta be kidding me. Wow.
Tariq Nasheed breaking it down on a mentally ill person. Manning it up, Tariq Nasheed. Manning it up. Yeah. Yes, that was Tariq Nasheed decided that he's going to record a young man who obviously was struggling with something. He's obviously struggling with something. This young man was. And Nasheed, who was apparently having an issue and checking into his hotel room, because no one has ever had an issue checking in to a hotel room. That's never happened. Mistakes weren't made ever. And that was his take on how to handle it was to pick on he's going to pull his camera out and record this young man having his mental breakdown. That was Nasheed's approach on how to handle a mistake in the hotel area. Now, my assumption is that as Nasheed went ahead and saw the young man acting remotely erratically, he decided that he was going to pull the camera out and he was going to record, because that's how men handle things these days. He was going to record his interaction with this young man suffering a breakdown, as we can see that he has in the if you weren't watching, the young man, if you weren't watching, if you're listening, excuse me, the young man actually is at this point he's fairly distraught, and he, with his fist, starts hitting himself on the right side of his head repeatedly. With his fist, he's hitting himself. He's already distraught because Nasheed is now going full he's going full, you're a white supremacist. Everybody's a white supremacist, of course, according to Tariq Nasheed, and we'll prove that a little bit later. Nasheed is a Black Lives Matter activist. Everybody's a white supremacist. Everything in America is white supremacist. And his issue in the hotel, checking in, the mistake being made, is, of course, a result of white supremacy. So what he does is he apparently starts yelling at this kid. We don't have the full video, but he's got this kid at distraught level. And the young man, in his, ill-fitting kind of suit, hair kind of messed up, apparently it already hit the computer once. And that's, of course, where Nasheed decides where he's going to start recording with his phone. Nasheed starts, of course, taking the whoever's mistake it was out on this young man even more, and this young man is again reached level red. The young man decides that he is done with everything and starts hitting himself. Again, if you're not watching, starts hitting himself on the right side of the head repeatedly with his fist. Then he proceeds to stand up and grab the monitor of the computer, the flat panel monitor. Flat panel, please. Not the old-fashioned tube. And decides to pound his head. Now, he's got the monitor held by both sides, each side, one hand on each side, and now he's ramming his head repeatedly into the monitor. The monitor, of course, receives considerable damage, and now the young man stands up and backs away from the counter and begins to whimper and say things about how his life, whatever hard day he's having, has now again reached level red, and he says he has to get out of here. And he says mumbles a few things about his life, and then walks towards the back. All this time, Tariq Nasheed is still recording on the phone. At this point, Tariq Nasheed, I'm sure, is beyond sure that this young man is suffering from some sort of psychological issue, some sort of mental health issue. All right. The young man kind of disappears into the back, and you can hear him just kind of whine, just let out a big sob. All right. Now, what Nasheed has done is not only did he feel that he was going to handle this erratic behavior by embarrassing this young man. And I struggled with showing the video. If you didn't see it, you don't really need to see it. I struggled with showing this video at first because I didn't want to give Tariq Nasheed exactly what he wanted out of posting this video, was to go ahead and embarrass this young man. But there was hardly any other way to express the ugliness of what Tariq Nasheed did. Okay? One of the things that Black Lives Matter claims, or the activists or the idiots that say that they are for Black lives, when indeed all they are is taking advantage of people. One of the top priorities, one of the topics of discussion, if you will, with the Black Lives Matter issue is people are not, that the police, particularly the police are not taking into account mental issues when it comes to black people, that apparently the police are just going around just, hey, black person, pow! And I walk into a bank, hey, there's a black person, pow! That's the picture that they're trying to paint. And one of the top issues is we're not taking into account the mental status of the person that may or may not be a criminal. I'm trying to be nice here. So, Tariq Nasheed decided that even though this young man obviously was suffering some sort of mental issue, some sort of psychological issue, he decides that he is going to post this video anyway. Now, as the day went on yesterday, I saw this video yesterday. As the day went on yesterday, it was harder to get to that video. it became harder to get to the video. It was easy that you just clicked on the Twitter account and it just boop and it went there. Then I found out I had to jump a few hoops, but nonetheless the video is still there. And at this point, it's everywhere right now. The photographs, the story is out. The young man behind the counter, someone started a GoFundMe to try to help the young man out. The Twitter feed was just a barrage of people going, dude, come on, man. Oh, I get it. Black Lives Matter, blah, blah, blah. Even Black Lives Matter proponents were, hey, this is, I get it, man, but this dude did not deserve that. So they did start a GoFundMe for this young man, so some people are trying to help me out. And then later in the day, Tariq Nasheed it's not possible for someone like Tariq Nasheed to comprehend what he did. He can't fathom what he did. So later he described that people were using that video. White supremacists were using that. That's what he said. Quote: "White supremacists were using that video, blah blah blah, to make him look bad." The bottom line was to make Tariq Nasheed look bad. He literally said, "White supremacists are using this video to blah, 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 make that look good." And then later, on the GoFundMe, Tariq Nasheed decides that he's going to be the bigger man and donate $20 on the GoFundMe page and proceeds to tell everyone that the young man told him that he was drinking earlier in the day. He couldn't even donate the $20. He couldn't apologize. He couldn't take the video down because that would be admitting something. He couldn't not keep from pulling his phone out to record this young man that was apparently at the brink of something negative. None of those things is Tariq Nasheed capable of. He is only capable of riding the wild Sibian of white supremacy. That is what Tariq Nasheed is capable of. And he is a awful person for doing that. Incredibly awful person for doing that. Enough about that nastiness. Let's talk about masks and kid athletes. Let's watch this. Watch this.
Maggie Williams just seconds away from setting the Summit School record in the 800 meter. A moment of glory, overshadowed by this moment of concern. Williams finished in 2 minutes and 8 seconds, collapsing as she crossed the finish line.
I felt like I just wasn't being able to get a full breath, and multiple times of that happening, not being able to get enough air. I just felt super dizzy and then eventually passed out.
Williams blames her lack of oxygen on the mask she's required to wear during competition.
Clearly in the past this has never happened, and then this race that I was wearing a mask, it did happen, which I don't think is a coincidence.
Her coach echoing that belief, saying this was not a conditioning issue, it was a mask issue.
It was a different response than I've seen for kids that have collapsed to the track just because they were exhausted. She wasn't sure where she was.
Turnbull told News Channel 21 he considered not letting his athletes run again with the current guidelines in place. So he and Williams called on the Oregon Health Authority to make a change.
All right, and so they did. They decided. Let me just give you a recap on what happened. And Maggie Williams The coach said she suffered a complete, quote, complete exhaustion debt. A complete exhaustion debt. I've been doing this, quote, I've been doing this for 31 years. Never seen anybody basically lose consciousness. He went on to say, absolute craziness. Are we going to wait until something catastrophic happens? So irresponsible by the authorities. That was a quote by her coach. In this case, Maggie still broke her school record, the school record, despite passing out because her momentum, she literally fell over the line. She literally fell over the line, and that helped her break the school record. So kudos to you, Maggie, for working hard and accomplishing such a feat. As a result, the Oregon Health Authority has had a change of heart. They're not going to make the kids wear masks while competing anymore. Isn't that fantastic? Isn't that darling of the Oregon Health Authority to not make the kids, the ones that are in the least amount of danger with COVID-19? On top of that, vaccines are happening, and the people that have already gotten it, so they don't have to worry about it anymore. They're going to make the kids not wear masks while they're competing in their athletic. It wasn't enough that the kids have to stand on the sidelines with their mask while they're not competing, but they're going to make the kids compete with mask on. Do you or do you not need to breathe while you're competing? And breathing becomes labor. You need a little extra breathing. You start breathing a little bit harder. And I don't know if you've ever done that, where you're breathing really fast and you feel dizzy and sometimes you pass out. Well, this young lady, Maggie Williams, has decided that she's going to break the record today, which means that she was going to be huffing and puffing a little bit more with the stinking mask on. The mask that is not helping her or any of those kids in any way. Now, Maggie, being not wanting to be not wanting to come off as uncaring, literally did her interview with the news channel 21, whoever that was, and decided that she was still going to wear the mask. So, what a darling young lady she is. She was still going to wear the mask while she did the interview. So it's not like Maggie doesn't care. You can't put that on her. You can't say she doesn't care, that false narrative of people not caring because they don't want to wear a mask. So Maggie did want to send her little signal to the world that she is indeed, I'm in favor of the mask. I can wear the mask during the interview. Why force her or any other kid to wear these stinking masks while they're competing? It's beyond ridiculous when it comes to this thing. New CDC guidelines: if you've been vaccinated, you can take off your mask outside. Ooh. Maggie, did you hear that? Oregon said that you don't have to wear your mask while you're competing. That's awesome. Thank you, Oregon, for stating the obvious after the obvious catastrophe almost happened. But the CDC says that if you have the vaccination, you don't have to wear the mask outside. Yesterday I posted my nomination for the dumbest thing of 2021, and that is you should get the vaccination, but you got to continue wearing a mask and mitigating. But the CDC decided that they were going to release the new guidelines, and you don't have to wear a mask outside. If you get the vaccination, you don't have to wear a mask outside, and sometimes inside. Ooh. I'm so happy that they're telling us what we can do. I was waiting with bated breath every day. I checked the CDC, or I'm hoping that Biden would get on television and tell me that I can have a barbecue and I can take off my mask, or I can go places. We're getting close, folks. We're getting close. The U.S. Center of Disease Control and Prevention on Tuesday released new guidance for fully vaccinated Americans, encouraging them to start doing many things that you had stopped doing because of the pandemic. That, how can you not love bureaucrats? Because the vaccines have proven to be effective at protecting people from getting sick, the CDC is recommending that people who have received both doses of the COVID-19 vaccine and have waited 2 weeks after their second dose begin to return to life as normal. If you've been fully vaccinated, the CDC says you can gather outdoors without wearing a mask, except in certain crowded settings and venues. You gotta have stipulations. Vaccinated individuals can also gather indoors, and unvaccinated indoors. Vaccinated people can gather indoors with unvaccinated people of any age from one or other households. Oh man, this is like a happy ending at some sort of massage parlor. Without mask, without a mask, or staying 6 feet apart, unless any of those people or anyone that live with has anyone they live with has an increased risk of a severe illness or COVID-19. Oh my God, common sense. Those traveling no longer need to get tested for the coronavirus before or after travel, or self-quarantine after travel. They're being so good to us. What did we do? Did you clean the kitchen? We're getting a reward, everyone. Did you get an A on your test? Yeah, if you were vaccinated and are returning to the United States from abroad, you should still get tested 3 to 5 days after travel. But you do not need to self-quarantine after arriving in the U.S., because you got the vaccine. These are things you can do when you get the vaccine. Vaccinated Americans who have been around someone who's tested positive for COVID-19 do not need to stay away. Wow. From others, or get tested unless they experience symptoms. Wow, that's awesome. They're being so good to us today. However, if you live in a group setting, like a correctional or detention facility or group home, and are around someone who has COVID-19, you should still stay away for about 14 days. Oh, it is incredibly good. It is incredibly good to hear from the CDC, to hear this news from the CDC. I know some, like right now, I'm being, watch your step, because I sarcasm all over the floor. So watch your step. But right now, as people are seeing or hearing this, they are thrilled. They're happy to hear that the CDC is letting them, giving them permission to live their life remotely normal. CDC continues to recommend wearing masks for indoor public settings and on public transportation. Those who have not completed their vaccine regimens are recommended to continue wearing masks around other unvaccinated individuals. On the question of COVID-19 variants, the CDC said early data show that the vaccines may work against some variants, but could be less effective against others. Wow. Again, thank you, CDC. Try not to, make sure you duck. Try not to hit your head on my sarcasm there. West Virginia, because we've reached the point, node lambda of people that were waiting with bated breath for the vaccination. So now we're at the point where people are going to, the stragglers are going to come in, and the people that don't want it, so they have to find some way to coax people into getting it. So West Virginia's decided that they're offering $100 per person for getting the vaccine. Polling of various demographics has repeatedly shown that some groups are far more likely to express vaccine hesitancy than others. For example, recent morning consult survey found that Republicans, 42%, are significantly more hesitant and unwilling to get shots than Democrats at 21%. That's another. That one's a funny one. I heard from someone that they believe that it's Republicans' fault that the vaccine won't go away. They literally chose a political party as the reason as to why the vaccine won't go away. The vaccine's not going away, folks. Never, ever. Ever, ever, ever. Or not the vaccine, but the virus itself is never going away. As a result, the vaccine will never go away. But the virus is never going away. Coronaviruses do not go away. No coronavirus, I repeat, no coronavirus has ever gone away. Women, 38%, hesitant. And that, I'm surprised it's not larger right now because of the whole blood clot thing and the menstruation issues that the women are experiencing with after getting the vaccine, more than men. Men they're 30%. So we're just elbows up, jogging on in. Hey everybody, I'll take a needle. Blacks, 48%, almost 50% of black people do not, and that comes with history. Hispanics, 38%, and white people, 32%. These are the hesitancy numbers, but the black people, that is in the culture across the board, because there's a middle class, a lower class, and upper class black cultures. You have to look at it that way. But across the board, in the history of the United States, and some of the inoculations that black people received, particularly in the military, black soldiers had received in the military, some of the testing, unethical testing done on black people in the past, those stories carry on. Some of that may have been blown up. Certainly some of that has been blown up and it gone from fairy tale into belief. But it is a real thing. Some unethical things happened with inoculations dare I call it black history. Had gone on between the United States scientists and the United States with the black population. So it's going to take a lot more. There's going to have to be a lot more proof that this vaccine is worthy of taking when it comes to the black community, as well as the Hispanic the Hispanic community, particularly Puerto Rico. It suffered some shady science experiments on women in Puerto Rico, or in the early 20th century. So there's things in the past that are going to make those particular communities hesitant in getting these things done. So how do you sell that to these people? You don't. That is why the ridiculousness of passports, vaccine identification cards, that is immoral. It is incredibly racist, and I mean that. It is insensitive, but that is what Tariq Nasheed goes around blaming everything on white supremacy, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez blaming everything on racism, and Joe Biden just throwing out racism, all of those false narratives, not letting people do things because they cannot find a way in their mind to get a vaccination that they probably do not need for more. In fact, they do not need. They do not need. They do not need. Anyone that got this vaccination does not need this vaccination. This was a peace of mind for people. They have spent more than a year being told that they are sure to die if they didn't wear a mask or stay away from each other. Then they come along with a vaccine, which is a miracle in itself that they did it within 6-7 months. They come along with this vaccine, and it's not approved. It was okayed for emergency purpose. That's why we're getting all these stories about, okay, this happened, blood clots here, people died after this, menstruation periods, those are being affected. You're getting all these weird stories, but for the most part, it seems to be working. Whatever the long-term effects are, we won't know until the long term gets here. But for the most part, people seem to be doing okay. And you can't have like maybe 100 stories out of 100 million plus people that have gotten the vaccine. You can't have like 100 stories and say, okay, well, this thing isn't working. It's just, that's the numbers, just that doesn't add up. Because even vaccines that have been around for decades have some sort of negative effect on someone. So, those are the people that are having trouble convincing themselves that the inoculation is worthy. But West Virginia, again, is offering $100 when broken down by age. Younger Americans ages 18 to 34 are the least likely to get vaccinated, according to the polling, because they don't need it. They don't need it. They do not need it. The only people that can come close to saying that it's needed is anyone 60 years old and up, roughly 60 years old and up, and those with compromised immune systems. Their position isn't as surprising, considered that the younger people who get COVID infections are unlikely to suffer any severe symptom or consequences. With that group in mind, West Virginia Governor Jim Justice announced Monday that the state will be giving a $100 savings bond to any $100 savings bond. $100 savings bond to any West Virginia. Any West Virginian ages 16 to 35 who gets the COVID vaccine. We're going to give every single one of these people that have already stepped up, or our younger people, our young people that have already stepped up and been vaccinated, and every single one of our where am I in this? But anyway, why am I trying to do this? We're going to give a $100 savings bond to every single one that steps up and takes the vaccine. Bottom line. There's a bottom line. So West Virginia is now going to bribe people into getting the vaccine. Then there's the Officer Sicknick thing. This came out yesterday. Sicknick was the officer that died during the January 6th breach of the Capitol. That every single day that goes by now, less and less and less proof of any wrongdoing actually happened, other than some broken windows. Literally. Less. In fact, the people that died there, and that's one of the things. The people that died there, the only person that was actually killed, and I forget the young lady's name, but it was the Trump supporting young lady that tried to climb through the window of the door that actually had glass windows. Somebody had broken that, and some like a can or something along that lines. I'm sorry. Yeah, my apologies for not totally recalling this video. But at that point, she tried to crawl through the space where the glass was. She tried to crawl through there, and someone shot her in the head. And no one has revealed who shot that young woman. She is the only one out of the 5 people that died, the only one that suffered anything, any sort of harm at that breach of the Capitol. The only one. There's another officer that he passed away, and he was just he passed away days later. Blah 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 blah. But Sicknick, but again, no one suffered any serious injuries at this breach. And they called it the deadliest. They called it an insurrection. They call it one of the worst moments in American history. All of these, and the only person that suffered any sort of real harm was the young woman that was shot in the head. The Trump supporter that was shot in the head. That no one wants to reveal exactly what happened and who shot her. As for Sicknick, Sicknick was the officer where they said that some Trump supporters bashed him over the head with a fire extinguisher. And they sprayed him with bear mace and they beat him to death. 2 people are still in custody because of this. Julie Kelly, a senior editor of American Greatness, has compiled the so-called case against Officer Sicknick's alleged attackers. We now know that 42-year-old Sicknick died of a stroke. He was already in bad shape. He was not bludgeoned by a fire extinguisher. The chemical sprayed in his direction during the chaos outside of Capitol did not contribute to his death, the chemical was bear spray. In fact, authorities are not even sure if the people arrested for Sicknick's death even used the alleged bear spray. George Tanios and Julian Cater were arrested on March 14th and charged with several crimes, including 4 counts of related to possession and use of a deadly and dangerous weapon, and for conspiring ahead of time to use spray against police officers. They are still behind bars. They've been denied bail. They are not presumed innocent under the new Democrat judicial system. U.S. Magistrate Judge Michael Alloy today will decide if they can be released. They have not been convicted of any crime. On March 22nd detention hearing, Alloy lectured, "We also generally know that," this is what the judge said, "we also generally know that they were supporting the president." The judge said this, that they were supporting the president who would not accept that he was defeated in an election. And so we have created this culture radicalized by hate and just refusal to really accept the result of a democratic process. I hear bias. He described what happened to Officer Sicknick as an assault on our nation. This is the judge. On our nation, an assault on our nation's home. Alloy continued to preach. I don't know. I think I have. I don't know if I've ever seen anything play out in a way that was more dangerous to our community. The Justice Department is seeking to keep evidence on much of that. Was a judge. That was a judge. The Justice Department is seeking to keep all evidence, much of it from videos from the defense. This was they are doing this, so they're keeping video evidence out of this trial that maybe these 2 people did not do that. So not only is this judge being a douche, not only is this guy being a douche, but he is he's denying these people their due process. If there's proof that they didn't do it, wouldn't you want to find the people that did it? Despite all the evidence showing that no one did anything? Sicknick died because he wasn't in good shape. He had a heart issue. He had a stroke. That's probably not Sicknick's fault, but it's my understanding that Sicknick was not in good shape. And he suffered probably from all the excitement of the breach. He suffered. And how much excitement could there possibly been? We saw some of the police in the Capitol taking pictures with some of the people that breached the Capitol. The same Capitol that was breached by a feminist, like a couple of years before, breached by feminists in a similar way. Granted, they didn't have to break any windows because they were let in. They were miraculously, mysteriously let in. There was more feminists that were in the Capitol at that time. And they were getting arrested just the same way. They were being just as rowdy. They didn't quite sit on Nancy Pelosi's desk and leave her a crappy letter. But my understanding is that guy is going to get out soon. There's no evidence that he did any harm. He wrote a crappy letter. I think he may have called Nancy Pelosi the B word. in the letter, that's not a crime. And the reason I say he may have said it is because the way it's spelled in the letter, if you see the letter, you don't know what it says. It's like spelled B-I-A T no, B-I-A-C or B-I-C-T-H. It's not it's not the word bitch on that's written on there. So he may or may not have called her that, but that's not what he wrote. So at this point, you can get the guy for not being able to spell or having poor penmanship. Hard to say. But that's the guy that you saw sitting on Nancy Pelosi's desk. He's going to get out soon. And these people, this Tanios and this Cater, need to be out. They should have been out. There is no proof. None. No proof that they did anything to Officer Sicknick. That judge really needs to be ashamed of himself. Podcast Titan Joe Rogan has come under attack from critics after saying that that young people, 21, particularly 21 and under, don't need to get the vaccine because they don't need to. Why would you put yourself through that? Again, right now, the vaccine is pretty much on a full-scale trial run. Again, they keep finding things that are going on with some people, a minuscule amount of people. Please, do not think I'm telling you not to get the vaccination. But people have reasons for not getting the vaccination. So right now, anyone under 21, I would say under 30, me personally, but anyone at this age, anyone around that age should not get the vaccine because you don't need it at that age. You do not need it at that age unless you are compromised for some kind of precondition. Unless you are compromised, don't get the vaccine. Wait. If you want to get it, wait a few years. And let's see what the long term has to. Because you may be injecting yourself with something that may wake up something inside of you that can do you harm when you never needed the inoculation. You can wait. You literally can wait. 25 and under for sure. I go full red. 30 and under. You can wait to get this vaccination. Why risk waking something up why risk that virus being pumped into you, even if it's a little bit? Why risk something that you may have that thing might wake up because it was pumped into you? Just to give you a picture, just to give you an idea how this works. AIDS, HIV, what have you. What it did was the issues that you had, that you were going to eventually have in your future, if you did not have AIDS, were going to happen sometime as you got older. What AIDS did was break down your immune system and expedite those problems that you were going to have somewhere down the line. It seems that people that are seriously affected by this COVID-19 seem to be experiencing the same thing. That there's some sort of ramp up with the immune system that seems to be attacking things that it shouldn't, therefore expediting some issues that you might have later down the line. So why risk the vaccination, the imperfect vaccination right now, why risk that? I'm not telling you not to get it. I'm not telling you not to get it. What I am saying is that you can wait, because in that age range, that 30 and under, 25 and under, 21, specifically 21 and under, in that age range, you're hardly affected by this thing. And if you do get it, you barely know you have it. So why risk? Why take the risk of again, women having issues with the menstrual change, blood clots, what have you? Some people having breathing issues. It's why get into that when you necessarily don't really have to? Again, the idea that I even have to say I'm not telling anyone not to get it. I'm just saying to consider your health. Consider who you are. You know your body best. So act accordingly. Thanks for joining me. Ada Jet Noise. Catch me on Rumble, catch me on Facebook, catch me on YouTube. Me, we, and Parler are getting those back together and trying to put together something on Instagram that is entertaining and not quite this. Not quite this. Thanks for joining me today. Hopefully I can see you again here real soon. I'm trying to not make promises about what days I'm going to be on, because again, my back life, of which my real life, which affects everything that I do, needs to be worked into everything that I want to do. So the things I need to do have to be worked into everything that I want to do. But thanks again for joining me today. I will say Thursdays are usually good for me. So, and tomorrow is Thursday, so I'll probably be here tomorrow morning. Until then, once again, thank you. Big hug. Be good. Be still. Enjoy your life.